Sometimes, the silence of an old house is not merely the absence of sound, but a dense presence that fills every cubic inch of the stagnant air, an invisible pressure warning your most primal instincts of a truth. You have never truly been alone in this place, not even right now. In sunny West Palm Beach, Florida, there stands a wooden structure whose Victorian architecture conceals a history of melancholy and despair, known by locals and investigators as the infamous Riddle House. A silent monument to what remains when life finally drains away. Originally constructed in the early 20th century for a dark purpose, it served as the administrative heart and residence of a funeral home, where the scent of dead flowers and the weight of grief were daily visitors, shaping the walls with the stagnant energy of the end of existence. It is said that timber absorbs the pain of those who cross its threshold, and for Carl Riddle, the funeral director who gave the property its name, the weight of this environment became a burden impossible to carry, leading him to a tragic fate that would seal the destiny of the home. Records indicate that Riddle took his own life in the isolation of the attic, hanging himself from the wooden beams, while the Florida sun shone outside, leaving behind a house immersed in a darkness that no light, no matter how intense, would ever be capable of fully dissipating. Since that day, the attic ceased to be a mere storage space for objects, becoming the epicenter of activity that defies all rational logic, where the air remains several degrees colder than the rest of the residence. Even during the most relentless summers of the southern state, visitors and employees report that the doors do not just swing shut, they slam with a violent force, as if invisible and furious hands were trying to lock something inside or keep the outside world away, in a silent protest against the intrusion of the living souls. Security guards patrolling the grounds after the sun goes down describe steps, heavy and deliberate, walking across the upper floor of the house, following a repetitive pattern that ends exactly above the spot where, decades ago, Riddle's body was found in suspension from the rafters. This is not the sound of metallic clinking or the natural creak of old wood, but an oppressive sensation of being under the gaze of fixed eyes, watching every movement of the intruders from within the shadows, hidden in the corners where the flashlight's beam cannot seem to reach. There are accounts of work tools disappearing from a room without a trace, only to be found arranged in geometric patterns in other areas, within rooms that had been locked and empty for several days, as if an invisible intelligence were reclaiming its rightful territory. Many restoration workers refused to return to the site after their shifts, claiming that unintelligible whispers were blown into their ears, and that the pressure on their chests when entering the attic was so suffocating that the oxygen seemed to have been completely drained from the environment. Dark figures, blacker than the very darkness of the night itself, are frequently sighted, crossing through the upper hallways of the home, masculine shapes that possess no faces but exude a tangible hostility, making anyone present feel as though they are a direct threat. The story of the Riddle House is not composed merely of local folklore, but of records from investigation teams who captured disembodied voices, electronic voice phenomena that repeat short and agonizing phrases, manifesting in frequencies that the human ear rarely perceives on its own. Today, the house rests within the yesteryear village historical park, transported from its original location to be preserved as a relic, but many believe that what resides within it was never left behind, traveling along with the boards and nails to its new destination. During the day, the sunlight filters through the wavy glass windows, creating a facade of normalcy that deceives the unsuspecting tourist. But the guides know that the atmosphere shifts as the shadows lengthen, revealing the true nature of what dwells between those wooden walls. The question echoing through the empty hallways remains without an answer. Is Carl Riddle condemned to repeat his final moments forevermore? Or did the house, after years of serving as a mortuary, become a portal, attracting other presences that feed on the melancholy of the place? There is something deeply disturbing about a construction that refuses to allow the past to be forgotten or for the silence to be respected, maintaining an eternal vigil over the living who dare to enter, searching for answers that perhaps should never have been found. Investigators suggest that the attic functions as a capsule of time, where Riddle's tragedy became imprinted on the physical structure, reproducing itself like an infinite recording of pain and isolation, from which there is no escape, neither for him nor for those who watch. Those who have felt the cold touch of the invisible in the Riddle House rarely manage to describe the experience without looking away, for the memory of the fear felt in that attic is something that remains rooted in the mind like a scar that never completely closes or heals. The phenomenon does not seem to diminish with the passing of decades, On the contrary, the reports become more frequent and more detailed, suggesting that the energy of the site is, somehow, growing stronger, nourished by the attention and the constant fear of those who visit. The windows of the house, seen from the outside during the silent dawn, seem to hide silhouettes that watch over the historic village. Sentinels of a time that has passed, but refuses to die out in a perpetual cycle of haunting that defines the Florida mystique. Many try to rationalize the events as a form of collective psychology, arguing that prior knowledge of the story induces a state of fear. But how to explain the physical records and the independent testimonies from people who did not even know what had occurred in that residence?
Have you ever stopped to think that the videos you just watched with flawless scripts and engaging narrations might have been created by someone who never even touched a camera or a microphone? There is a new digital elite profiting heavily behind the scenes of YouTube and social media, building massive channels without ever showing their faces or spending thousands of dollars on equipment. While most people are frozen by the fear of being on camera, these individuals are using the hidden power of artificial intelligence to generate automated content that works and earns for them 24 hours a day. The secret to dominating this game isn't about having a famous face. It's about knowing how to command the right tools to create scripts, voices, and visuals that magnetically hold the audience's attention. I've gained access to a strategic method that reveals the exact roadmap for you to build your own invisible digital empire. Mastering AI to turn clicks into a real source of income. It is the perfect opportunity for those seeking financial and geographical freedom without having to deal with the pressure of being a public figure on the internet. Best of all, you can seize this opportunity right now for a symbolic price. The complete training is under an exclusive promotion, dropping from $97 to just $17. This is your passport to unlocking the knowledge you need to start your professional journey with AI today. Click the first link in the description to secure your spot while this discount is still active.
The Riddle House remains as a challenge to science and human reason, a reminder that territories exist between the realms of life and death that cannot be mapped, explained, or simply ignored by the world, especially when they choose to manifest in such a physical way. If you decide to walk through Yesteryear Village after the sun sets, and your eyes turn toward the upper floor of the old wooden house, be careful with what you expect to see reflected in the antique glass, for some shadows do not belong to the world that we know. The mystery of Florida is vast, but the Riddle House is its focal point. A place where the veil is thin and the despair of a dead man continues to reverberate through time, touching the skin of the living with the coldness of one who still searches for an exit that does not exist. This account does not seek to convince, but to document what many felt. The anguish of being in a location where the laws of physics seem to bend, and where the past is not just a memory, but a tangible force, capable of moving objects and paralyzing hearts with a simple whisper. What happens when the lights go out and the park becomes empty? Only the security cameras and the wooden walls truly know the truth, but the records suggest that the activity never truly ceases, maintaining its macabre dance in the total obscurity of the attic. With every step taken on the stairs that lead to the top of the house, the atmosphere becomes denser, as if the air itself were saturated with a static electricity that makes the hairs on your arms stand up, long before any visual phenomenon actually begins to take place. It is an experience that alters the perception of those who live it, leaving the eternal doubt of whether we are alone in our consciousness, or if we are merely temporary guests in a world that, in reality, belongs to those who were never able to depart. The whispers heard in the early mornings of West Palm Beach might just be the wind blowing through the cracks in the wood, or they might be the final lament of a man who discovered, too late, that death did not bring the rest that he so desperately sought. If the walls could speak, they would not tell stories of life or joy, but would detail every inch of rope and every beat of the heart that preceded the final silence in that cursed and lonely attic, eternalizing the moment of the rupture between the soul and the flesh. Investigators continue to set up their equipment within the site, hoping to capture the definitive proof of what everyone already knows. But the Riddle House guards its secrets with a silent and dark fury, revealing itself only to those it specifically chooses to terrify. The dark figure that walks through the rooms has no name or face, merely a presence that emanates a deep and hostile sadness, making the environment become unbearable for the living souls, who are compelled to leave its domain as quickly as possible. There is no comfort found in those rooms decorated with period furniture, only the sensation of a stage play that never reaches its end, where the actors are ghosts and the audience is composed of the curious, who often leave the house with more questions than they had before. Florida hides many secrets beneath its palm trees and burning sun, but none are as persistent or as documented as this one here. A reminder that horror can inhabit a perfectly common house, as long as it was once the stage for an indescribable amount of pain. The attic remains locked for most of the time during the day now, a security measure not to protect what is hidden inside the room, but to prevent the malignant influence of the place from spreading, or to stop a visitor from suffering the consequences of their audacity. Reports of inexplicable bruises appearing on those who enter the attic, or of cold handprints that appear on the glass of the internal windows, are just some of the details that compose the dossier of the house, painting a vivid portrait of a haunting that is both active and dangerous. The Riddle House does not ask for permission to haunt its visitors. It simply exists on a frequency that is different from our own, intercepting our reality with flashes of pure and unadulterated terror that defy any attempt at logical or skeptical explanation. Whether you believe in the paranormal or keep your faith in science, the experience of being alone in that residence after midnight would certainly test the limits of your deepest and strongest convictions, confronting you with the unknown in a brutal and direct manner. The evidence accumulated over decades is far too vast to ignore, to be dismissed as mere coincidence or a trick of the mind. There is something wrong with the physical structure of that building, something that modern science does not yet have the tools to measure. Carl Riddle's legacy remains alive, not through works or through family, but through the continuous manifestation of his final act of despair, which transformed a simple residence into an icon of pure horror, attracting the attention of all those who seek what lies beyond. With every new investigation, the mystery seems to only grow deeper, with new voices being captured and new shadows being filmed, proving that the Riddle House still has much to reveal to the world, although the price to hear those revelations may be far too high. The contrast between the historical beauty and the spiritual decay is what makes the narrative of this case so engaging and disturbing, for it reminds us that evil does not need a ruined castle to hide. It can reside comfortably in a Victorian house under the Florida sun. As long as the house remains standing, the steps will continue to echo, the doors will continue to slam, and the attic will continue to be avoided, preserving the cycle of fear that has become the property's identity within the silent and still borders of the yesteryear village. No one knows for sure what would happen if the house were demolished, if the energy would finally be released, or if it would cling to the soil, cursing the land just as it cursed the wood and the glass panes, in an eternal vengeance against the implacable passage of time. The mystery of the Riddle House remains as an open wound in Florida, a place where the past refuses to be buried and where the dead seem to have much more to say than the living who try to study them, maintaining their dark vigil over all who happen to cross their path. It remains for each of us to decide if what occurs there is of the mind, or if we are facing a reality that we would much rather not know, where the suffering of one man can echo for an entire century, without ever losing its strength or its capacity to terrify the living. The darkness in the attic is not just the lack of solar or electric light. It is a physical manifestation of a void that cannot ever be filled, an absence of hope that has become the very foundation of that house, and that continues to draw curious souls into its cold embrace. At the end of this journey through the hallways of the haunted residence, the warning remains that we should never underestimate the shadows. The some real stories are much more terrifying than any fiction, and the Riddle House is the living and pulsing proof of that terrible truth. What do you believe resides in the Riddle House attic to this day? Comment your theory below. Subscribe to the channel for more real cases. And don't forget to leave your like if you felt the chill of this story.